and we just improvised the whole thing, and it became something that was in the show, and I remember that.
After Rob Reiner's passing, the heartbreak didn't end with the funeral. It twisted into something heavier, something no one in the family saw coming. When the will was finally read, Roy and Jake were hit like a freight train. That massive $200 million fortune, built over decades of fame, grit, and legacy, wasn't going to the family at all. It was left entirely to charitable foundations. In that single moment, the grief flipped into shock. The loss wasn't just about saying goodbye to Rob anymore. It felt like being cut off from their own bloodline. Anger started to bubble fast. According to people close to the family, Jake couldn't hold back and snapped, saying his parents had chosen the outside world over their own children. Phones started ringing non-stop. Lawyers got involved almost immediately, and the warm family tone froze into something cold and calculated. That's when the real storm began. What followed wasn't just a courtroom battle over money, it became a slow, public unraveling of old wounds that had been buried for years. One by one, private Reiner family tensions started surfacing, pulling the spotlight right onto them. All this chaos hit only weeks after a tragedy that had already left everyone shaken. On December 14, 2025, Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, were found deceased inside their Brentwood home. The discovery stunned Hollywood. Nearly 2 weeks later, the family held a private farewell, far away from cameras, fans, and flashing lights. Once the Los Angeles coroner completed the autopsies, the remains were released around December 19th. Jake Reiner, the eldest son, was listed as the official informant on the certificates, stepping into a painful role no child ever wants. He was the one who received his parents' ashes. Public records later confirmed both Rob and Michelle were cremated at Mount Sinai Mortuary, a respected Jewish funeral home nestled in the Hollywood Hills. The whole ordeal left behind whispers of tension, secrecy, and heartbreak. The Reiner family made sure every step followed Jewish tradition, swift, respectful, and deeply personal, even while emotions were still raw and heavy. Roy and Jake decided to keep things quiet, away from cameras and gossip. No red carpets, no reporters, just a small, private farewell. The ashes were brought to Jake's home, where they rested temporarily, giving the family a small sense of comfort during those gut-wrenching early days. Insiders revealed that no final call had been made about a permanent resting place. The family reportedly talked about either scattering the ashes somewhere meaningful to Rob and Michelle or laying part of them to rest in the family cemetery. But peace didn't last long, because soon after, the calm broke in dramatic fashion. Cameras caught Roy and Jake stepping into a high-profile Beverly Hills law office known for representing Hollywood's wealthiest in messy inheritance battles. Both wore dark clothes and shades, their faces unreadable as the flashes went wild. They kept their mouths shut, but the silence spoke volumes. Those photos spread across social media in minutes, igniting a wave of headlines about a $200 million inheritance clash. People started whispering, why were lawyers being called so soon? With grief still hanging in the air, fans and insiders alike questioned why things were moving this fast, especially when there hadn't even been an official statement about when or how the will was presented. Just like that, the story flipped again, and the media spotlight blazed hotter than ever. The siblings stayed quiet under the pressure. Romy didn't say a single word, her eyes heavy, her expression numb, while Jake walked a few steps ahead, his shoulders tense, clearly trying to shield his younger sister from the chaos. That quietness only fueled the frenzy. Reporters crowded closer, shouting non-stop questions about inheritance rights, control of assets, and whether Rob Reiner's will had even been validated yet. One reporter yelled out a question as they stepped off the elevator. Another voice immediately followed, demanding, "Who's in charge of the estate now?" The echo of those words hit hard against the cold hallway walls. Two siblings, grieving the loss of both parents less than 2 weeks earlier, were suddenly standing in the middle of a full-blown Hollywood storm. As debates over the will grew louder and Roy and Jake kept being spotted entering one law office after another shocking twist dropped like a bomb. A source close to the Reiner family revealed that Rob Reiner's decision had been set in stone long before his passing. Nobody saw it coming. Turns out, that massive $200 million fortune was always meant for charitable foundations, not his kids. At first, the news spread quietly, whispered between insiders and family friends, but soon it hit like a wave. According to one longtime confidant, Rob's choice wasn't about anger or resentment. It came from something deeper, a belief system he had lived by for decades. Rob had this unshakable view that people only grow when they're forced to find their own strength. He believed giving too much could actually hold someone back instead of lifting them up. In Rob's mind, too much money could turn into a trap. It could dull ambition, drain motivation, and strip away the hunger that keeps a person driven. The same friend recalled Rob saying each of his children needed independence, but for totally different reasons. With Nick, things were especially delicate. Rob worried that sudden wealth could bring more harm than peace. He believed constantly protecting someone, even out of love, could block them from ever standing tall on their own. Rob once said plainly, money isn't a solution, it's just a spotlight on what's already there. He thought giving a massive inheritance to someone still figuring life out would only add more pressure, not stability. He wanted Nick to build strength the hard way, to face life head-on, learn from the hits, and find value through his own choices. But when it came to Jake and Romy, Rob saw something different. He viewed them as already standing on their own 2 feet. Jake had carved out his own lane early on, a steady career, his own rhythm, his own life. Romy, meanwhile, had been pushing hard through the creative world, shaping her own voice one project at a time. Rob admired that. They weren't just his kids, they were individuals earning their paths without leaning on his fame or fortune. Because of that, Rob didn't think leaving them a huge inheritance was necessary. He believed they'd already proven their worth through action, not money. He even used to joke with friends saying his kids could handle whatever life threw at them. They're stronger than people realize, he'd say with a proud grin. According to one insider, Rob Reiner believed the real mark of fatherhood wasn't the money you leave behind, it's the strength your kids carry when you're gone. He used to say that true success meant raising children who could stand tall without leaning on anyone's safety net. That belief shaped everything he did, and because of it, Rob made his intentions crystal clear years before his passing. Nearly his entire fortune, around $200 million, was meant for charitable foundations, not family inheritance. Rob believed money needed a mission, not just a bank account. He didn't want his wealth turning into a crutch that kept his children from fully stepping into their own power. According to those close to him, he used to say that every dollar should keep working for the world, not sitting still. And this wasn't just talk. Rob backed it up with solid action. He laid out detailed legal plans to ensure no one could twist or challenge his wishes later. He even designated who would handle the sale of his Brentwood estate, along with his other properties across Los Angeles. Once the sales wrapped, every cent was set to flow directly into foundations he had personally chosen years before.
These organizations weren't random picks. They were close to his heart. They supported education, healthcare, and programs designed to lift up struggling communities. Another close friend recalled a quiet night when Rob once said something that stuck with them forever. Parents don't live to pave the road for their children. Parents live to teach them how to walk. At the time, it sounded simple, but now that line feels like his final message carved in stone. The source added that Rob wasn't blind to what this decision might cause. He knew his children would be hurt, angry, confused, maybe even resentful. He expected it, but he trusted that with time, they'd come to understand what he was trying to teach. Rob always looked beyond the emotions of the moment, believing that real lessons take time to sink in. Even against the heartbreaking backdrop of his sudden passing, his philosophy stands out, powerful yet unsettling. The timing was cruel, the loss still fresh, and emotions were raw when the truth finally hit. But through it all, one thing stayed clear. Rob had built a system that left no room for misinterpretation. His legacy wasn't just wealth, it was a lesson in strength, purpose, and independence that would echo long after he was gone. There wasn't a single penny of inheritance left for any of Rob Reiner's children. Not a portion, not a clause, not even a symbolic gesture. The will was airtight. No division, no backup plan, no exceptions. And that's when a heavier truth started to surface, one that hit harder than anything before. According to insiders, those repeated visits by Romy and Jake to top-tier law offices in Beverly Hills weren't just routine paperwork, they were emotional battlegrounds. Behind those closed doors, frustration was boiling over, shock turned to disbelief, and silence turned into something deeper, a quiet breaking point. What the public mistook for calm acceptance was actually the sound of heartbreak happening in real time, hidden away from the cameras. When the full truth finally landed, it shattered the family's composure. A close acquaintance revealed that Romy broke down in tears during one of the first meetings with attorneys. Through sobs, she reportedly repeated the same words over and over. "This isn't fair." In that moment, the will stopped feeling like a legal document. It felt like an emotional wound, raw and personal. The source said Romy felt completely pushed aside, as if her grief didn't matter, as if her pain had been written out of the story altogether. The will to her didn't read like her father's final wish. It felt like erasure. But Jake's reaction came from a different place. According to those present, he didn't cry, he exploded. His anger hit fast and hard. Jake reportedly called his parents' choice selfish, saying they had chosen to be generous to the world while forgetting the very children they raised. Those words weren't about greed, insiders insisted. They came from a place of abandonment, the kind that cuts deeper than money ever could. Both siblings struggled to wrap their heads around receiving absolutely nothing, not even a token of acknowledgement. One family source made it clear they weren't against charity. What broke them was being completely written out of their own family's legacy. That pain, more than the dollar signs, is what drove them straight to the lawyers' offices. For Romy and Jake, this wasn't just a financial blow. It was about respect, identity, and closure. They wanted answers, not handouts. Sources say they started digging deep, reviewing every line of Rob Reiner's estate plan, trust structures, legal timelines, and every clause that might hold a crack worth challenging. The fight wasn't just about inheritance anymore. It was about reclaiming their place in a story they thought they'd always belonged to. The road ahead wasn't easy. It felt brutal, but for Romy and Jake, it was the only path left. Someone who attended one of those tense meetings described the atmosphere as suffocating, like the air itself was thick with grief and frustration. At one point, Jake reportedly asked a question that froze the room. Are we still their children, or just details that can be discarded? No one had an answer. The lawyers could talk about procedure, paperwork, and statutes all day, but nothing they said could touch the emotional wounds underneath. Then came the moment that changed everything. Romy and Jake decided to go all in. They assembled a powerhouse legal team, the kind that usually steps into Hollywood's biggest, messiest inheritance wars. This wasn't just about advice anymore. It was about battle preparation. They brought on Daniel Kraus, a fierce estate litigator known for tearing through complex wills, and Evelyn Hartman, a sharp specialist in charitable trusts and multi-layered asset structures. From the first meeting, the tension was electric. Kraus reportedly didn't sugarcoat anything. If you want fairness, he warned, this will be long and ugly. Jake fired back without hesitation. We're not afraid. We've already lost everything. The room went quiet after that because everyone knew he meant it. Those words weren't of strategy. They were words soaked in grief. The legal blueprint unfolded from there. The team's strategy focused on challenging the charitable trust system itself, arguing that the will left the children with no meaningful consideration at all. Hartman reportedly explained that if they could prove any kind of imbalance, coercion, or emotional pressure, they might have grounds to question the validity of how those foundations were set up. Suddenly, the siblings' intentions weren't just whispered about, they were right out in the open. The emotion in that room reached a boiling point. Jake, overcome with frustration, reportedly slammed his hand on the table and said, "The foundations should not stand as the only legacy. This is my parents' life, not a monument to how they wanted to look." His anger wasn't about greed, insiders insisted. It was about being erased from the story his parents had built. Romy, on the other hand, spoke softer, but her words cut just as deep. Looking straight at Krauss, she reportedly said, "I don't want a portion. I want everything. If they were alive, maybe I'd understand, but they're gone, and we were left with nothing." Her voice trembled, but her resolve didn't move an inch. Krauss warned them both that going after the foundations would make things ugly fast, that the public could easily turn against them. But Jake's reply was ice cold. "Public opinion isn't my family." The line hung in the air like a closing door. For the Reiner siblings, there was no turning back. At that point, insiders said the line between justice and resentment blurred completely. The Reiner siblings' fight wasn't just about legal rights anymore. It had turned into a battle over meaning, legacy, and love. The legal team dove deep, gathering everything they could: old notes, private emails, saved texts, and even past conversations, to piece together Rob Reiner's mindset when he made those fateful decisions. Daniel Krauss reportedly told them straight, "If we move forward, this won't just challenge the money, it'll challenge an entire moral legacy." And that's where the real irony hit. The same values Rob had lived by, independence, self-reliance, and responsibility, had now become the very reasons his children were rebelling. For Jake and Romy, this wasn't some noble lesson to absorb. It felt like a decision made without their voices, at a time when no dialogue was even possible.
Outside the family, the public kept praising Rob Reiner as a symbol of compassion and integrity. But behind closed doors, his family was quietly fracturing under the weight of that same legacy. The world saw a man who gave everything to help others, but inside his home, that generosity had become a source of heartbreak. A close source revealed something haunting. Rob truly believed his children would understand one day. He just never lived long enough to hear that they weren't ready. It's a chilling thought. He wanted his choices to teach strength, but instead, they sparked a war he never imagined. Rob and Michelle Singer Reiner weren't just talking about compassion, they turned it into real work with tangible results. For decades, they built their reputations as one of Hollywood's most socially active and respected couples. Their projects focused on children, education, and equality, causes they didn't just fund but personally stood behind. Their biggest achievement? The I Am Your Child Foundation, a groundbreaking organization focused on early childhood development, especially those crucial first 3 years of life. Through documentaries, campaigns, and educational programs like I Am Your Child and The First Years Last Forever, hosted by major figures such as Tom Hanks and Oprah Winfrey, their message reached millions. The foundation reshaped how an entire generation viewed parenting and early education. And that's what makes this whole situation sting even more. A legacy built on compassion and care, on helping families grow stronger, has now become the core of a painful family divide. The Reiner story, once about love and giving, now echoes with silence, grief, and questions that no one seems able to answer. A legacy meant to unite the world has left its own family shattered. Riding the wave of his growing influence, Rob Reiner didn't stop with one foundation, he built a movement. He launched Parents Action for Children, an advocacy group that pushed to bring science straight into politics. The mission was daring. Take the research from neuroscience and child psychology and turn it into real policy, pressuring California lawmakers to invest deeply and long-term in young children and struggling families.
Rob wasn't just talking about change, he wanted it written into law. Behind the scenes, Michelle Singer Reiner was the glue holding everything together. She worked tirelessly, connecting donors, researchers, and politicians, making sure brilliant ideas didn't just sit in reports, they turned into action. Her influence was quiet but powerful, the kind that kept the whole machine running smoothly. Then came one of the biggest turning points of Rob's public life, Proposition 10. Rob took the lead on the campaign, which introduced a state tobacco tax to fund the First 5 California program, an initiative designed to give every child under 5 a real shot at a healthy, educated start. The results were massive. Billions of dollars were poured into healthcare, early education, and full-spectrum development programs for kids across the state. People still talk about it as one of those rare moments when activism, politics, and public support all came together perfectly. It showed that Hollywood's star power could actually reshape lives far beyond the screen. But Rob's fight for justice didn't stop there. In 2008, he co-founded the American Foundation for Equal Rights, the group that became a key player in the legal battle against Proposition 8, the California law banning same-sex marriage. That fight climbed all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and helped pave the way for the 2015 decision that legalized same-sex marriage nationwide. Michelle stood right beside him the whole way, coordinating media strategy, bringing together major names from film, music, and television, and rallying support that stretched across Hollywood and beyond. Even with all the spotlight around them, Rob and Michelle kept much of their giving low-key. They regularly donated to public education programs, mental health services, and addiction recovery initiatives, quietly changing lives without making a show of it. Rob often said, "Impact matters more than recognition," and he lived that belief every single day. Film itself became another weapon in his activism. Many of Rob's projects carried strong, human-centered messages, and he often organized fundraising screenings for causes ranging from early education to civil rights. Meanwhile, Michelle used her producer's touch to blend storytelling with real-world action in a way few others ever achieved. What the public rarely saw was how hands-on they really were, showing up, giving time, guiding projects, and staying involved from start to finish. For Rob and Michelle Reiner, their activism wasn't just part of their legacy, it was their life's purpose. Rob and Michelle Reiner didn't just lend their names to causes, they showed up and did the work. They both served on advisory boards for California-based community programs, especially those focused on child welfare and early education. They weren't figureheads, they were hands-on, diving into long meetings, reviewing reports, and even questioning budgets line by line to make sure every dollar made a difference. Their influence reached far beyond philanthropy. The couple poured millions into democratic political efforts, becoming a major force behind campaigns for figures like Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, and Joe Biden. Their home became a hotspot for high-profile fundraisers filled with Hollywood heavyweights and Washington insiders. Rob even toyed with the idea of running for governor of California at one point, but ultimately chose activism over politics, saying his family and values mattered more than holding office. As the years went on, Rob became even more outspoken, especially when it came to his political convictions. He was one of Hollywood's loudest critics of Donald Trump, and in 2017, he co-founded a committee dedicated to investigating election interference. Michelle stood right beside him, continuing her own fight for truth and awareness through film. Together, they co-produced God and Country, a hard-hitting documentary that explored the rise of Christian nationalism through a critical, thought-provoking lens.
Their shared mission stretched far beyond the red carpet. Their legacy wasn't about fame, it was about impact. The work they did lived on through major policy shifts, cultural changes, and the institutions that continued running long after they stepped back. Millions of children across California gained access to better early education programs because of their efforts. Millions of same-sex couples found legal recognition, equality, and protection thanks to the movements they helped fuel. Their voices amplified progressive causes far beyond Hollywood's reach. So when word leaked that Rob Reiner had left nearly his entire fortune to charity, the people who knew him best weren't surprised one bit. To them, it wasn't some shocking twist. It was pure Rob. The final logical step for a man who spent his entire life building things that would outlast him. This wasn't about breaking tradition, it was about staying true to it. That's what makes the question even more fascinating. How did Rob Reiner build that massive $200 million fortune to begin with? Because that kind of wealth didn't just fall from the sky, it was built over 5 decades, brick by brick, project by project, deal by deal, through one of the most powerful entertainment careers Hollywood has ever seen. It all started with acting, the spark that lit the fire. Rob Reiner first became a household name through the legendary TV series All in the Family, where his face and voice filled millions of living rooms across America. But that first big break wasn't what built his fortune. It was just the opening act. The real financial power came when Rob stepped behind the camera as a director and producer, moving from star to shot caller. That's when everything changed. He hit an entirely different level of money and influence. Films like When Harry Met Sally, Misery, A Few Good Men, The American President, and Stand By Me weren't just Hollywood hits, they were cultural landmarks and box office beasts. During his prime years in the late 1980s and 1990s, Rob was earning directing fees in the tens of millions per film. And the best part? The back-end deals. Those profit shares kept paying him long after the lights dimmed and the theaters emptied. Then came one of the biggest power moves of his entire career, the creation of Castle Rock Entertainment in 1987. The studio exploded into a Hollywood empire, producing timeless classics like Seinfeld and The Shawshank Redemption. When Castle Rock was sold and restructured in the early 1990s, Rob's ownership stake turned into a massive payday, one that marked one of the biggest jumps in his personal net worth ever. Real estate was another gold mine. Rob invested smart, high-end, long-term, and strategic. He bought his main Brentwood estate from Norman Lear in 1991 for about $4.75 million. Later years, that same home skyrocketed in value, estimated between $10 and $13.5 million. And that wasn't his only gem. He also owned a luxurious beachfront villa in Malibu's elite colony area, bought in the 1990s for around $4 million, later worth between $15 and $20 million. During peak seasons, that place reportedly rented for 6 figures a month. Add in additional properties across Beverly Hills and other prime Los Angeles neighborhoods, and his real estate empire looked unstoppable. Taken together, the picture is crystal clear. Rob Reiner's fortune wasn't luck, it was longevity. It was built through control, consistency, and sharp business instincts. Every film, every property, every deal was part of a bigger strategy, one that quietly turned creativity into capital over an entire lifetime. But the story doesn't end there, because Rob kept his money working long after the cameras stopped rolling. Another powerful stream of income came from royalties. Iconic projects like This Is Spinal Tap and When Harry Met Sally never faded away. They kept airing worldwide, being re-released and popping up on every major streaming service. Each royalty check might have seemed small alone, but stacked over decades, they turned into serious money. And then came one of the biggest power moves of his entire career, the resolution of the long-running copyright dispute over This Is Spinal Tap. The win gave Rob and his co-creators stronger control over their creative rights and royalties, reinforcing his income stream right up to the end. It wasn't just about money, it was about fairness, respect, and ownership of his life's work. Outside of Hollywood, Rob kept his financial strategy cautious and deliberate. He diversified into stocks and stable investments, not the flashy, high-risk kind, but the kind that quietly protect and grow wealth, especially during the years he wasn't behind the camera. That low-profile discipline helped keep his fortune solid even through unpredictable industry shifts. And through it all, one person stood beside him, shaping every move: Michelle Singer Reiner. She wasn't just supportive, she was involved. Michelle had sharp instincts and serious business sense. She advised on productions, helped guide investment decisions, and worked to steer the family clear of risky deals that could sink a career overnight. Many didn't realize it, but Michelle's steady hand helped protect the empire Rob built.
When you put it all together, All in the Family, Castle Rock Entertainment, iconic films, royalties, the Brentwood estate, the Malibu villa, it formed an empire worth around $200 million. A lifetime of discipline, storytelling, and vision, all connected through smart, steady decisions. But here's where the story takes its twist. That same fortune, built over 5 decades of hard work, only became a public obsession after Rob's passing, not because of how he earned it, but because of who he left it to. When the will was revealed, it landed like a thunderclap. Every dollar, every asset, every legacy piece entrusted to charitable foundations, not family. To many, it looked noble, but to his children, it felt cold. On one side stood the image of Rob Reiner, the man who spent his life preaching compassion and equality. On the other stood the children, still alive, still grieving, still trying to understand where they stood in their father's heart. Was this Rob's deepest expression of love, a belief that forcing independence was his final lesson? Or was it a decision shaped by distance, silence, and a family that never quite found its way back together? Where does justice truly sit in this story? With the ideals Rob championed all his life, or with the wounded hearts of his children who felt forgotten when they needed comfort most? Those questions still hang heavy in the air, unanswered. Legal documents might close a case, but emotional truth, that never settles easily. Thank you for staying through the final moments of this story, one filled with legacy, contradiction, and quiet heartbreak. If you've got thoughts on Rob Reiner's will or the questions it raises, drop them in the comments below. And for more deep dives into powerful families, hidden decisions, and stories that refuse to end, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because in stories like these, the real endings don't happen when the papers are signed. They begin when the silence sets in.